Hello everybody, and I am back again. I saw you guys this morning and I had told you that I was preparing for my supper, which is this evening, and it's just about supper time. It's almost 5 o'clock, and some of you may be working on your dinner now. So if you don't have a chance to watch it now, maybe you can watch it later. So because I am going to show you my pinto beans and ham that I put on this morning that I told you that I was going to do. And I showed you this morning about soaking the dry pinto beans in water or overnight, and then just putting them in the crock pot with a couple of ham hocks and covering them with water and let them cook. Hey Susan, I love my sister, she's great. Mwah! I love you. So anyway, I wanted to show you my beans so that way you can kind of see what they look like. So I'm going to turn around. I'm going to show you my crock pot. So we're going to go this way, and I'm going to turn my camera around so you can see. Here we go. I'm taking the lid off. Whoa! Look at that. So if you look at it, you can see here are the beans. They are nice and cooked. And if you look at this, look, that ham is just falling off of that bone. And you just keep stirring it around a little bit, and that ham is going to come out off, and you're going to have those nice big chunks of ham in your soup. And you'll pull out the bone right before you serve it, of course. But it's getting all of those rich flavors from that ham bone in there. So it is bubbling away, and we are going to be ready to eat here shortly. So those have been cooking all day, as I showed you this morning. So I'm going to turn back around because the other thing that I said this morning that I was going to be doing is I was going to make homemade cornbread. And cornbread, depending upon where you live or your cultural background, can be a lot of different things. So from people from the South, cornbread's near and dear to our heart. One of the things my dad loved to do growing up, and I don't, but he loved to take cornbread, crumble it up in a glass, and pour buttermilk over it and eat it. And there are a lot of older people that love to do that. It was never my thing. Or even if you just pour regular milk over it, still never my thing. But I love me some cornbread with a good bowl of soup. So I'm going to walk you through how to do cornbread. And one of the things you're going to notice too about, I'm going to call it Southern cornbread because that's just what I know it to be, the way I make it. One thing we don't do is we don't have sweet cornbread. Our cornbread is not sweet. So there are other regions that like really sweet cornbread. That is not a Southern thing to do. So you're going to notice I'm going to put just a pinch of sugar in mine, but that's all. Just a teeny pinch, and you won't even taste the sweetness. So, hey Aunt Margaret, how are you? It's good to see you. I hope I'm making cornbread. So, and the next thing I'm going to make is going to be peach cobbler. So I'm going to make these really quick. So I'm going to flip my camera around, and I hope Mr. Brazil is watching, because Mr. Brazil is my friend from Elkton High School, and I used to bring him peach cobbler all the time, and it was his favorite. So anyway, so I hope he's going to watch this. So I'm going to turn this around. Couple of things that I have here on my counter. One, to start my cornbread, is the first thing that I do is I'm going to walk over to my oven here. I take my iron skillet, you can see it in there. I've got an iron skillet, and I grease it really well with a shortening. And I put it in my oven at 450. I let it heat while I'm mixing up my cornbread. So here in my bowl, I have, as I've talked with you, and my sister Susan has talked with you about how we love white lily flour. We use self-rising flour. And I also have a white lily cornmeal mix here. Now, this is kind of difficult to find up here. You may be able to find it in Maryland at certain grocery stores. I know you can get it in Virginia, but I don't use, like, if you think of certain types of cornmeal, you open it up, it's yellow, it's grainy. This is not that kind of cornmeal. And I'm going to show you the texture of it here, just so you get an idea. I'm going to reach my hand in the bag so you can see. But it's almost like flour. It's a little bit grainy. but it's real kind of almost like a sand, if you think about it, like a real fine sand texture. But that's what I use for my cornbread. So I use, in this bowl, I have got mixed in together, I have got 1 cup of self-rising flour and 2 cups of cornmeal. And I've got it mixed together here in this bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab me a fork, and I'm just going to kind of just mix my flour and my cornmeal together. I'm holding my phone with one hand, and I am mixing with another. So I'm trying to keep it to where you can see it well. So I'm going to mix this up together. And unlike biscuits, cornmeal is, biscuits I don't think is hard either, but this is like super simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to my cornmeal mixture, I'm going to add 1 egg, just 1 egg. I'm going to pour that in there. And I'm going to add here in this little bowl, I've got like measured out just a little pinch of salt. So I'm just going to take my finger literally and pinch it. And I'm going to put it in there. And over here, I've got some sugar, just a little bit of sugar. And I'm going to put my fingers in there, and I'm going to pinch that and give me a little pinch, maybe a little bit more because my finger's not getting it very good. A little pinch of sugar. And the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to add 1 cup of milk. So I'm going to, and I use 2%. It doesn't really matter. Some people use buttermilk in their cornbread, and that's perfectly fine. I just don't have buttermilk on hand that often because I don't go through it fast enough, so I don't buy it. So I am going to pour in my 1 cup of milk here, and I am going to mix this together with my fork and just kind of mix it. And this is not like biscuits, like you're not kneading, okay? So you're just going to mix it together. Make sure that your egg gets mixed in there really well. And another thing that I add to my cornbread is I add just a little bit of melted butter. So I'm sorry, I've moved my camera. A little bit of melted butter. So I'm going to continue mixing this and get it all mixed up. And actually, I think I'm going to add just a little bit more milk. And you go by texture. Oftentimes when you're cooking, you're looking at it, you're going by texture. You know what? I'm going to get Pat to come hold my phone. Pat, come hold my phone. So I can do this. My husband's going to come hold my phone. Stand over here. So I'm going to let him hold it so you guys can see what I'm doing. There you go. There he is. Say hi.
Hi.
All right. So here. So I'm going to go ahead and stir this up just like so. And you're going to get it all mixed in there for your cornbread. Mix it, right? I'm just going to add just a little bit more milk because it's a little thick, I think. And I'm just going to kind of fold it like that. There we go. That looks a little bit better. That looks more like your consistency, kind of like that, okay? So you're going to mix that together, make sure it's all incorporated good and the egg is mixed in there real well. And what I'm going to do is Pat's going to follow me with my phone, and I'm going to get my hot iron skillet out of my oven here. So, and what you do is when you pull out your iron skillet, or whatever it is that you're cooking your cornbread in, because the whole idea with cornbread is it's almost like a fried bread in a way. So you get that oil real hot, nice and hot, and then you take your cornbread mixture and you just pour it in here. And when it hits it, can you hear it? It sizzles. So, and that's really what you want. You want to hear that sizzle. There's nothing like that. And you smell that hot oil, and you know that, hey, my pan is ready. And I just kind of spread it around, just like that. And I put it back in my oven, and it is going to bake at 450 for about a half an hour or so until it's nice and brown on top. And when it comes out, it's going to be a nice cake. It's going to be nice golden brown on top. And you cut it into slices and you put some butter on it. So it's very good. So my other recipe that I said that I was going to share with you guys is cobbler. And I call it cobbler because most of the traditional ways that I do it is with peaches, or I do it with blueberries. And cobbler is a staple in my house. It's, if you ever have a friend that calls you up, and we all know who those friends are, that may call you up and say, oh, I'm gonna stop over. You're like, oh no, I gotta have some coffee or some tea, or I gotta make something, I gotta have some cookies or some brownies or something, right? You got that spur of the moment thing you need to make. Cobbler is my go-to recipe. And every time I make it, my kids are like, oh yes. And I always try to have vanilla ice cream on hand, because who does not like it a la mode? It just heightens it. It makes it so much better. So I'm going to show you how I make my peach cobbler. So I have here for you, I use a 2-quart casserole dish. And for this recipe for today, I am using peaches. I'm walking over to my sink for a moment here. And you can see them right here. I put them in my colander. I used the Freestone Del Monte peaches, and I drained them. I used 2 cans of these. And, or you can get like the big fat can if you want to, if you can find that. But these I find are particularly hard to find because, oh, this isn't the one I thought it was. There was one that's called Harvest Peaches. Never mind. There's one of these, Del Monte makes a Harvest Peach, and it comes in a can, and it has a little bit of cinnamon and nutmeg in it, and it's wonderful in fall. And that's what I was thinking this one was, but it's not. It's just the regular peaches. So I use 2 cans of this. I drain it. I do not use the syrup in it. It's just too sweet. So I drain the syrup off. I rinse them, and here are my peaches. And I am going to dump them in my 2-quart casserole. So the next thing that I do for peach cobbler is, again, this is so simple. And once you get the hang of this, I'm telling you, it will be your go-to quick whip me up dessert. And people are impressed. They're like, whoa, how did you do that? It's so great, because this is magic, people. I'm going to show you, this is magic. In this bowl, I have 1 cup of self-rising flour, 1 cup of sugar. So I have my flour here, and I put it in, and I am going to mix it up just like so. My son Jacob just tried to call. He's just going to have to hold his horses because Mama's busy. So I'm going to mix up my flour and my sugar just like that. 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of sugar. And the next thing I'm going to do is 1 cup of milk. I'm going to take this, I'm going to pour it in there. I'm going to mix this up. Just turn it nice and slow. Mix it all in. You just want to stir this just until everything is mixed. You don't want to overmix it. If there's a few lumps in there, that is okay. That is to be expected when you're working with flour. Okay? So I'm just going to stir it until I've got all my flours all in there and it's all nice and wet. And it looks pretty good. All right. So, yep. So the next thing I'm going to do is to my peaches, I am going to add some water. And even if you're, no matter what fruit that you're using, blueberries, peaches, strawberries, you're going to layer your bottom of with your fruit. You can even do a mixed fruit if you would like. And then you're going to add water, just enough to reach the top of that fruit. Okay, so I'm going to use my can here, and I'm going to get me some water. I meant to do that and I forgot. So I am going to fill this up with some water. And I'm just going to pour this over my peaches. Now you see, I'm going to squish them around a little bit. I've got just enough liquid in there to reach about the top of my fruit. And if you look down through the side of my dish here, you can kind of see where it reaches. So that's about all that you want in there. The next thing that you're going to do is you are going to take this mixture and you are going to pour it just like that all over into the water, into the liquid, just like that, okay? And another thing that I do sometimes, not always, and right now I'm not going to because I don't have it ready at the moment, is you can melt a 1/4 cup of butter and pour a 1/4 cup of butter in it. But what you don't want to do right now is you don't want to stir this. You do not stir it. So instead of melting my butter, and I told you guys earlier that I always keep a stick of butter out nice and soft, I am going to take a 1/2 stick of butter and I'm going to cut a few tabs. Just a few little slices, and I'm going to put it on the top. So that will work the same way as just pouring my melted butter in there. It's really no different. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is nice and soft, so it's going to be a little mushy and a little bit messy, but that's okay because it's butter and it's great. So I'm going to just cut a few little tabs like this, and I'm just going to set it over. Oops! I'm going to just kind of spread it around. Make sure each little area's got its own bit of love from the butter. And I'm going to probably do about 1 more tab here. Just like that. Okay? And then what I do is I put this baby in the oven and I let it bake for about 45 minutes at 350. And what's going to happen is that self-rising flour. You may be looking at this and thinking, huh? That self-rising flour is going to cook and it's going to rise to the top of this cobbler and it's going to make an irresistible crust all by itself. And when people see it, they're going to think you slaved all day on this beautiful cobbler and that you created this great crust, when really you just kind of poured it all in there and it did it all by itself. So what I will do is after this comes out of the oven, after my cornbread comes out of the oven, I will post pictures of each one and to share with you guys, and I will also post the recipes for both of these online so that way you can try it for yourself, and I hope that you enjoy them as much as our family enjoys them. One thing, and I know I talk about a lot of things that are precious to me. I have this cookbook, and if you're looking for a great gift idea, we're coming up into wedding season, just a little bit of a tidbit here. This is a cookbook, and in this cookbook, my sister has one and I have one. My mom wrote this for me, and she wrote me a little note in it, and then she goes through, and you can tell it's had a lot of love. She goes through and she writes different recipes, and she writes me little notes about those recipes on each side of things that I loved growing up. And my mom made one of these for me when I got married. And she made one for my sister when she got married. And to carry on that tradition, I made one for my daughter, Brittany. When she left our home to go live on her own, I made her very own, and she treasures it to this day. And if you're looking for a great wedding present for somebody, it would be wonderful if you were to find some recipes and create for them their own special book. This is something that I will never part with. It goes with me everywhere. So that's a tip for you for today. Like I said, I will post pictures. They will be forthcoming. And just to give you a little view before I leave, look at my cornbread in the oven. You can kind of see a great picture of it. It's rose up to the top already. It's got a nice mound on it, and it's just getting ready to get brown. So until next time, guys, happy cooking. And thank you for tuning in. Bye.